Fair use. Copyright disclaimer under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976. Allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, education, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by the copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use.
Hello everyone, welcome to Making the Tea Rational, where I make all the tea and gossip make sense. Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. I thought I would come on here and speak about the interview that Lecrae did with Jonathan Majors and Meagan Good this week, and I'm going to tell you that interview was very powerful. It was so real and so genuine that it really makes you really like them together. You know, I really do like them as a couple. I feel like their couple doesn't have anything to do with a publicity stunt. I feel like they really came together because it was destiny. And not only that, I like what Jonathan Majors stated. He said him and Meagan were friends first. You know, they developed a friendship. And that's why they can talk about anything with one another. You know, like he said, she can give him a pound. He said he knew once she gave him that pound that it was over. It was official. Because he not only could be himself, but she could be herself as well. And they come with no restrictions. You know, they can talk about how they're feeling without being judged. And I really like the fact that they are letting all the hate that's coming their way bond them together even more. It's just like it's keeping them stronger. I think that both of them are kind of fighting through everything together with their faith, you know. Like Meagan stated, you know, she was angry with God, which is a very powerful, very, you know, not only candid, but an honest statement to make. And it's also brave because she knows that she's already taken hits from the church community. And they haven't been very forgiving towards her. I understand Lecrae stated that black people can be forgiving, but no, we're not all that forgiving. No, we're not. Not towards one another. Now, maybe for other people, but a lot of times it seems like I'm just starting to notice the people in the church, they're dealing with some things themselves. I'm sure that's why a lot of them are there. But it's just that, like she said, she was angry because she prayed to God. She didn't want to go through what her mother went through when her mother and father got a divorce. When she was a little girl, around, like she say, 9-10 years old, I think it was 11. She stated that they got a divorce, and she saw her mother suffer through that. And she told herself she never wanted to get married and go through things like that. And it happened to her anyway. And she was in her marriage about the same amount of time, like 9-10 years, something like that, with Devon Franklin. And what did he do? He divorced her. And the church is still coming after her. This is the thing I'm going to say about the Christian community. How are you going to talk about Meagan Good being loose? They call her every name in the book, and they're still coming after her. Because, especially after this interview, because she said she had some anger with God. And they were calling her a demon, saying that, you know, they're happy Devon moved on, that Jonathan Majors can have her. All of that. But these are supposed to be Christian people now. This is what I'm talking about. What did she do to you personally? What did Meagan Good do to you personally? And how do you know Devon Franklin didn't move on out of lust? How do you know he wasn't lusting after somebody else and decided, oh, I just want to go this route? I've been with Meagan Good, so from here, I'm going up. I can be with any woman I want to be with. You know, or even better yet, go and find a woman outside of the community to get with. So I'm just like, how are you guys calling yourself Christians and you're basically bullying Meagan Good? You're going on her social media platforms and you're harassing her, calling her out her name, calling her Jezebels, all kind of just disrespectful names that she does not deserve. Because he divorced Devon Franklin. Not only he divorced her, she didn't divorce him. So why is everybody so angry with Meagan Good? I'm not really understanding that. Because of how she dressed. That was for, do you know she dressed like that because that's her brand? She's a sex symbol and that's how she dresses. When you see Meagan Good and she's out with her family and they're having events and celebrating things, she's dressed like every other girl that goes to the store, to go grocery shopping or whatever. She's fully clothed and she's just laid back. She's kind of goofy, fun-loving, which most black people are. That's what we do. And she's just that type of person. She's just a laid-back person. But everybody's trying to make her out to be more of a, worldly person, a street person. When Meagan Good, she does a lot for people in her community. Go and look at her bio and read about her. She does a lot for her community. And that's more than I can say about some of you Christian people. Some of y'all don't do nothing for anybody. You're going to church for the wrong reasons. And I'm going to leave it there. I'll stop at that. But I'm just saying, I just can't believe how you say you're Christian and you coming after her like you're doing.
Even if you get mad, even if you get
Yes,
offended.
ma'am.
So,
And Jonathan Majors was really showing how much he really loved Meagan Good when Lecrae asked him about what Meagan Good meant to him. And Jonathan Majors began to cry. He started crying. And he was just saying how she basically changed his life and that he's blessed that God sent her to him because he was at a really dark place in his life. And you can see that. You can tell when he was doing interviews for Creed 3 and even things after, before he actually met Meagan, he just seemed like he was just not really connecting with himself. Like he was just kind of lost, in a sense, because of all the things that he was, I guess, going through in his personal life. And like he said, he's always grown up with being a target for bullying. He's always been the person who was pretty much an outcast. He was always almost kind of like, and to a certain extent, like told that he wasn't good enough by the way people treated him, So he kind of just stayed kind of like off to himself. So Meagan just made it clear that, Jonathan is her best friend. And that, at the time when he was talking, he was crying and he was expressing how special Meagan was to him. She was crying as well. But the part of that interview and this moment that I thought was so sweet is when he gave Meagan his shirt, the sleeve of his shirt, to wipe her tears off with, because she was waiting for production to bring her some clinics for, to wipe her tears away. And he let her use his shirt. Now, little things like that is what's missing in relationships. Because it was no vanity. It was no, I paid this much money for this shirt. You're not wiping your face off and your makeup on my shirt. He did it without any type of reservation, with no type of, hang-ups. He just, here's my shirt. So, and it came off so naturally that you can tell these are things that he regularly does for her. It just comes natural. And like she said, Meagan said, she feels like she's really being loved by him. So it makes you wonder, when she was in a relationship with Devon Franklin, she didn't even want kids in that relationship. So you can tell that this relationship has revealed something different to her, where she actually wants to be a mother. Their lives are kind of similar with some of the things they went through coming up. Meagan had her challenges as a young kid, I remember her talking about how she was treated, like had some racial issues and stuff she had to go through when she was a kid. I think she said her teacher even hit her or something. I remember when she said she was little. Boy, she couldn't be my child. But yeah, she said the teacher had put her hands on her.
Don't touch my kids. If you ain't birthed them and financially taking care of them, you going to keep your hands to yourself. That means my kids, my nieces and nephews, and my grandkids. Keep your hands to yourself, baby.
She had people try to jump her. And that's jealousy. That is nothing but jealousy. When girls do stuff like that and try to jump you, that's jealousy. And that's what I think it is anyway with her. I think a lot of people are jealous. And, usually when people are jealous, they are the most vicious. They come for you, in ways that are just the most detrimental, the most hurtful to you because, they can't stand that, you're successful or you're attractive or, you have something that they feel like they wish they had or, they just are envious. It's just off of envy. And that's not of God either, to be like that towards people, because you can tell when you compliment her and stuff, she says thank you, but she doesn't even like it. You can tell she doesn't. She's just, like she said, I'm a regular person. I'm just an everyday person just like everybody else. I have the same emotions everybody else have. Her and Jonathan both. We're just like everybody. But when you're a celebrity, everybody upholds you to a higher status. It's like you're in a bubble. Like you are way up here, you outside in the stratosphere somewhere, that you're untouchable, that you're not, you can't feel like everybody else. And I don't understand why people make celebrities like they're living on earth, but there's kind of like they feel like because they see them all the time on social media, TV, and things like that. I guess it's almost like they don't see them as human. And that's very weird to me. These people are human beings, just like you, me, everybody. They have the same life experiences just like us. Yes, they may have a lot more money. They may have a lot more access. Some people may respect them more. They may have protections around them and things like that. But there are other people that have the same thing. And they're not on social media or in the public. They're not public figures, or celebrities or whatever. And I just don't understand people's logic and why they feel like celebrities don't feel like everybody else. And some of them, like I say, you may not like some, but some of them are really doing good things in the community, and then you just need to pay more attention to what the whole person is about, as opposed to what kind of characters they play in movies and how they look when they're on red carpets and things like that. Of course, they have to look a certain way when they're on red carpets. Duh. That's what every image and all that is for. That's why they take pictures of them and all that. It plays along with everything that goes along with being an entertainer and being an artist. And that's all it is. It's artistry. That's the purpose of it. But my purpose of this video, back again to stay on topic of what I was talking about, was that their relationship is really beautiful. It's a beautiful relationship. And if you guys have time, you should go over there and check out Lecrae's video and watch that interview, because it'll make you feel much different about their relationship. And like Jonathan Major said, he knew he was in a dark place. It's not like he's trying to pretend like he always had everything pulled together. He said, I was in a dark place, and she's just helped my life tremendously, along with God. She was there, but she's also helped him through, because she's been by his side through and through. When he was going through all that legal trouble, she's always been by his side. And not to mention, she allowed him to be himself. He shared things with her I believe he probably never shared with other people. Like she said, that man is her best friend. It's not just her husband now, but he's also her best friend. And he was just saying, Jonathan Major said he just gets so angry because of how people treat Meagan, all because she's with him. They come after her, they mistreat her because she's by his side, that she's now his wife. So what he gets, she gets now. And he said it just makes him mad. He's like, people are so damning, they damning my seed. And I thought that was really deep when he said that. He said it's seed. So before he even have kids, he knows it's coming. That the child that they bear together is going to come, they're going to have some type of targeting going on when they get here. So yeah, they're going through a lot behind the scenes. So if you don't see her smiling, you don't know what they're going through behind. Something is going on. And like he said, they are going through some targeting. People are coming after them. There's some hatred. She's even being blocked out of things and all that because she chose to make the man her husband, But you can't tell anybody who to be with. And you can tell they genuinely love each other. It's not for any type of, star power or to become a power couple in the celebrity world. You can tell they're really together because they like each other. Not only love, but like. They were holding hands almost throughout the whole entire interview. And it didn't look fake at all. I don't understand why everybody want to say their relationship is so fake. It's nothing fake about their relationship. Not when you sit up there crying like that. Of course, we know they're actors, but that has nothing to do with it. You can tell it's just genuine. They were sharing things about themselves that was very vulnerable. And for Meagan to say she was angry at God, that was very courageous for her to say that because she already has the church condemning her, coming after her. They're looking for fault. They're looking for her to fail and have fault and all that. She's getting it from the church community and she's getting it from, which are Devon Franklin's fans for the most part. That's who's coming after her. And then she's getting it from her fans and the ones that don't want to see her with Jonathan Majors. They're just targeting her for that reason. And she knows it. She knows what it is. And like Meagan said, she can shake her head and nod, give some type of gesture. And Jonathan Majors knows where she's coming from. He knows what it is. So, they'd have a bond very close. And people can say it was a short period of time, but you don't know how long they've been knowing each other. I'm just telling you, they really have a love that's very authentic and very real. Sometimes you don't think that certain people might go together, but they do. Some people really mesh. Some people really are, destined to be with one another. They really get each other. And that's the most important thing, is that you guys can be you when you take off all that makeup and all the glitz and glam. You can actually be you. You can actually, tell a person how you're feeling, honestly, and not feel like you're going to be judged or abandoned, because you tell them something, and that's what I'm saying. A lot of people are very judgmental in their relationships, and they're in the relationships for the wrong reason, which is why they don't last. A lot of people give people, oh, this person has money like me, or it's always about something other than you having some type of, spiritual connection, or that you just get along in terms of, you have your lifestyles are parallel. You can relate to one another on a deeper level. And a lot of people, they go ahead and jump in relationships, have kids, do all kind of things, and not even test that out. Not even to see if the person can even withhold, things that you share about them, and they done already made major decisions on taking big leaps in a relationship that never really got finalized in terms of you really learning one another. It's just like I say, their relationship, I don't see how anybody can watch that interview and afterwards say that their relationship is still fake, or that they're just doing it to help him out with his career, because she's going through what he's going through now. she's taken on that. She's jumped in the fire pan with him. And she said she's not fearful. She said, I am fearless. So she's standing side by side with her husband. She don't care what people throw at them. And he's the same for her. And like he said, he's not as fearless as Meagan is, but if he has to go there, he'll go there, because he said, that's one thing about me. He said, now I'm brave. He said, now that's one thing I am. I'm very brave. So if I have to go there, I will. So yeah, he's there. He don't want you messing with his wife. So that's something that he's not really going to tolerate, and he stated it. He was very strong about his displeasure of how people are coming after his wife because she chose to be with him, and even coming after him because he made one mistake, or perceived mistake, and the world has not let him live that down. They're still trying to come after him, still trying to take things away from him, still trying to shut him out, of Hollywood and from different projects and things like that. They're still going through things. And now she's, walking that same walk with him. When she could have just said, no, this is too much for me. I don't think I can go through with this. And that would be a person that was in it for the wrong reasons to begin with. Because when people don't understand, when you marry somebody, you marry all of them, no matter what they come with. That's what you marry. And that's why you have to learn people. You have to really understand a person. And if you're not willing to accept all of that person, why are you getting married in the first place? That's why marriages just are not lasting. Because it's always coming with something, you get together for everything but the fact that you actually like one another. Everything is about vanity. Everything is about, how much money you got in your pocket and all that. Everybody wants to be financially sound and secure, but that's not everything, when it comes down to a marriage lasting. That's just not it. You have to honestly have, a connection outside of all that surface stuff. That's very surfaced. So you have to, and very superficial at that. So I'm just saying, I just thought it was a very lovely interview, and I just wish them a life of joy and an everlasting marriage to the end of the earth. I pray they get old and gray with one another and stay with each other for as long as they're here on earth. Because you can just tell these two, they really love each other. They really do. So watch that interview and, tell me what you think. Either before you watch it or after you watch it, you can come back to my channel, make a comment, however you choose to do it. But please give me a like, share my video, and please do not forget to subscribe on your way out. And everyone, have a nice day.